From the alley-oops at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way. From off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. And I know that there's probably a big basketball game happening right now. I see chat being populated, but I'm sure most people can multitask, right?
Let's hope so.
Have the basketball game in the background,
I think
us in the forefront.
I think it starts at 6.
Oh, it starts at 6.
It starts at 6.
Okay, so, I haven't watched much basketball, so you're going to have to be there.
There's some time. So TCC, the ones you were here, it's fine, right?
Yeah.
And then however long this ends up going, you just take a little bit of time. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to be. Yeah. It's not going to be the end of the world. And you know, we've already seen it populating the chat. A few people talking about Warriors being world champs tonight and all that stuff. That's basketball. That's an hour from now. You worry about that. Run 2 screens. Marvin.
There you go. Marvin's on it.
See, Marvin gets it. Marvin understands it. But look, hit that like button right now if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button and then start populating chat with questions because it is full live Q&A all day for this stream. But whatever you want to talk about, we're going to talk about. So make sure that you let us know what it is you want to discuss in 49ers land because, I don't know, maybe it's a wide receiver position. What's going to be going on there? Maybe they want to talk about running backs, the O-line, your head coach. I don't know. You let us know, chat.
Yeah, it's all about you today. You're in control of what is the conversation in this live Q&A. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Tom from over on Facebook, Tom Coolboss says, basketball game I don't think is on for another hour. So
plenty of time.
Tom is on it. We have plenty of time then. So I'm excited to see what kind of questions we get. We know the 49ers had their state of the franchise yesterday, led by my favorite guy, Greg Papa. I did power through it. I did watch it. And I think that, you know, if people have questions about that as well, I'd be very happy to talk about it because there's some cool stuff going on in 49ers land.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's always cool stuff going on in 49ers land. There's always cool stuff going on just in general with the 49ers, especially right now with the season, you know, inching closer and closer and closer and just getting to a point where they can get to themselves in a better spot. I did see, and I wanted to bring this up. I pulled it up because I couldn't remember what it was that PFF ranked, where they ranked Kyle Shanahan, but I saw this earlier today. They had him ranked as the 4th best play caller. They put 3 play callers in front of him. I believe those 3 play callers were McVay, Reed. They put Kellen Moore and Brian Leftwich in front of him.
Wait. There's no way that those guys are ahead.
Those are the names that they put in front of them. I saw this. I thought I read it incorrectly, but I saw this and was like, hold on a second. Andy Reid is the only one that I would be willing to somewhat semi-concede on because obviously the Chiefs beat the Niners in a Super Bowl and Reid was the coach. I'll concede on that. But Kellen Moore, who called a quarterback sneak in the playoffs this past year, is ahead. And offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich, because he's got Tom Brady? Are we serious on this? Is this a real list?
I mean, can we give Byron Leftwich that much credit anyways when we know Arians came in with the red pen, remember?
It's true.
That offseason, Arians was coming through and changing the game plans every single week.
So here's the first part. So here's the thing. I would have expected, if they had put Sean McVay in front of Kyle Shanahan on this list.
Yeah.
I don't freak out. I don't agree, but I'm not sitting there going, you know what? You're a bunch of clowns. They put McVay behind Shanahan. So we're talking Andy Reid probably 1, Moore 2, Leftwich 3, with Shanahan and McVay at 4 and 5. That is an insanely idiotic list. Like, I don't even know how do you get there. Also, if Cliff Kingsbury, per PFF, is the 4th best head coach in the league, how is he not a top 6 play caller? How is he not a top 5 play caller? How is he not number 2?
This is when you start confusing numbers. Andy Reid, I'm with. I'm
not going to knock that.
Andy Reid's a very good play caller. But after that, and I think it's the fact that it's Kellen Moore and Byron Leftwich. And I think Byron Leftwich is going to have a good year this year. I look forward to seeing what happens when the restraints are off and he's actually able to do what he wants according to what Tom Brady wants him to do. But still, I think he'll improve. But the Kellen Moore one, I do not get the love. I do not get what is so spectacular about their offense. It seemed like the 49ers figured it out pretty well last year in the playoffs. So that's very interesting. I did not know that happened. So thanks for pointing that out.
I saw it. I was just scrolling through WebZone at home. I got done with a couple things, waiting to start heading this way. And I looked at it and was just kind of like, he's fourth. I was like, okay, he's fourth. Okay, so let's see who the names are. Like,
yeah,
because I can buy someone finding a way to put Shannon. And then I looked at the names and I was like, what, huh?
Yeah.
How? Like, how is that possible? But
I don't think you're gonna figure it out.
Per David Campbell, any list is completely subjective. I never get invested in top 10s or rankings. I mean, you try not to.
Yeah.
The problem with PFF though is they claim to be not subjective. Everything is measured, right? There's a formula. They're looking at numbers. These aren't subjective opinions. These are opinions surrounded by stats and facts and all this stuff. They prop themselves into this category. And then when you start looking at their lists and looking at their formulas and things of that nature, you would expect to see consistency, right? If you see a top 5 head coach on their list, you would expect to see that guy, especially if he calls plays, in the top 5 of that category. Because if you're a head coach whose main responsibility is play calling, like Cliff Kingsbury's, then how could you be top 5 in one and not top 5 in the other? You would think those things go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I see we're starting to get some questions. Seeing David Campbell had a question towards the top. Said, what is your best guess about Jimmy? What will happen with him and when? I think first thing that has to happen is he has to get cleared by doctors. Once he gets cleared by doctors, then the 49ers can make a decision, because at that point they'd be able to release him without any penalty. They would have no problems being able to release him. The $8 million is not in question. I think that is the first time the 49ers would be able to do that, and that's also going to coincide when he's throwing the football. The fact that he'll be able to throw the football and then other teams will be able to see what he can do. I think that's the first time that the Jimmy Garoppolo train starts moving, and potentially he could get moved to another team, or they could go ahead and release him. But until then, nothing happens. I think there will be an opportunity for them to go ahead and trade Jimmy Garoppolo. I think somebody will come calling, but I wonder if it's going to be enough for the 49ers to pull the trigger, because I do not believe the 49ers are going to want to eat any of his contract. They're going to want that money free, because they could always just release him, ignore the draft picks and draft capital, and just save on the money, which could be the best option.
And Big Papa, in terms of is there anything that's out of bounds? And I mean, the only way to know is to find out. So go ahead and, I guess, push the limit.
And especially if it's football related.
Yeah, if it's football related, it's most likely inbounds. But as for Jimmy, David, I'm not sure. I would say this. Jimmy Garoppolo is... Nothing is going to happen with Jimmy until he's healthy. It wouldn't make sense for the 49ers to do anything before then. You don't want to risk having to eat an additional $7-8 million if you don't have to.
Yeah.
And guess what? You can hold on to him until he clears and then move off of him at any point and put that $7 or $8 million that you may have to pay out if you cut him before he's healthy and before he passes a physical. You can put that right back in your pocket. You guarantee that you keep it. It makes more sense. Do you guys read the Twitch chat, though? Says the Goblin 3739. You bet your sweet behind we do. So there you go, Goblin. How you doing?
Yeah, welcome, Goblin.
Whatever questions you have. Are you the lone Twitch watcher? is this the lone Twitch watcher? And we know, we keep an eye on Twitch. There's usually at least one who sticks around for the whole episode on Twitch. Sometimes it fluctuates. There's always one. If that's the Goblin, welcome, man. And yes, we do read Twitch chat.
Yeah, exactly. Let us know what you think from everywhere. I mean, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitch, YouTube, it doesn't matter. Go ahead and leave something in chat, and we'll definitely comment.
True. Big Pop said Kellen Moore proved how great he was at the end of the 49ers playoff game. Yes, that Cowboys 49ers playoff game was absolutely glorious. Kellen Moore deserves to be at the top of every list. I did enjoy that. And I will say that I don't dislike Kellen Moore. Yes. I don't dislike him at all, but when it comes down to it, he's just not one of those top level offensive coordinators in this league. I don't get, where people think it's the same thing with Jason Garrett. Everyone was high on Jason Garrett, and it never panned out. And now Jason Garrett's going to be working for NBC. He's not even going to be coaching. So we'll see what happens with Kellen Moore. I think he is a nice young coach, but maybe getting a little bit of hype too early right now. Caleb, I should have figured. I should have figured. Thing is, I know you're a gamer tag. I should have figured.
Oh, wow.
That was you on Twitch. Look at you. Look at you hopping around. I know you're not the Twitch watcher, though. I know it's not you that's watching on Twitch. I know it's not that because the person doesn't comment. But you know what? Say okay. Yes, Twitch chat does function on here, so welcome Twitch users. You can ask questions. Freddie Mac Dre, what is the value of Trey Sermon, especially since the Niners took another running back in the third round of this year's draft?
Well, listening to the state of the franchise and just listening to the way that Kyle Shanahan, talked about Trey Sermon, there's definitely going to be a role for Trey Sermon, but he talked about the fact Trey Sermon had to figure it out, what it meant to be, a player in the league. I thought those were very interesting. I think that there is some development that needed to happen for Trey Sermon. I think that was evident from watching him in practice and then watching him, especially in the Packers game where he probably got his, most carries of the season. I think that when it comes down to it, they see a different role for TDP. Now, they did mention TDP as a depth guy, and then for Trey Sermon. We'll see what Sermon does, but this is Sermon's prove-it year. We'll see what he can do, and if he's going to be able to take some of these snaps and reps. If not, they have guys in TDP and Jeff Wilson Jr. that can get it done, and Trey Sermon will be relegated to the bench again. I do think he's going to come in and have more of an impact on this season than he had last year, so I'm fully aware of what Sermon is and what he could be. I'm just hoping we're going to get to what he could be a lot sooner than what he is.
I think the reality is that you made the moves that you made. You brought back Jeff Wilson Jr. You did the things that you did because you don't know what Trey Sermon is going to be. You thought you knew what he could be. You thought you knew what you could turn him into or what he could develop into, and you learned very quickly that that's not a skill set of his, not a strength. It's not something that you don't know if he can figure out how to be that. And especially with Bobby Turner not in the room now, the guy who has been molding your running backs. Yes, you have Anthony Lynn, you got Forster now in charge of the run game. That's all great, grand, wonderful. But at the end of the day, it's a question mark. And so because it's a question mark, you went out and got yourself a gentleman in TDP that you don't have as many questions about becoming the running back or the style of running back that you would like to pair with Elijah Mitchell, that you would like to start building this roster around. If Trey Sermon can carve out a role, then great and wonderful. I think he's got a better chance of carving out a bigger role than JaMychal Hasty did. I think he's a better runner than JaMychal Hasty in terms of certain aspects of his running game. He doesn't have better hands than JaMychal Hasty in any way, but he's bigger, stronger, which means he can be a more efficient blocker on third downs. He has the capabilities to do different things as a third down back. The question is just going to be is what it turns into, what it becomes. I don't actually know. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say, Ant, that the 49ers and Trey Sermon are done. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not going to happen. What I am going to say though is that Trey Sermon right now is, in my personal opinion, on the outside looking in at this running back room, because he's the odd man out. They talked about TDP being completely different than any other running back they have in the room, which is correct. Trey Sermon is completely the opposite of what they're looking for, it feels like, in a running back right now. And we felt that when they drafted him, they obviously felt they could mold him into something, and maybe the experiment isn't going to pay off.
It might not. I think this is the year. I do think he improved a lot. Bobby Turner would definitely work, his butt off to make sure that Trey Sermon becomes the running back that they all believed he could be. And then when it comes down to it, I think Anthony Lynn could potentially be just what the doctor ordered when it comes to Sermon. Awesome. I think they're going to carve out a role for Sermon with Trey Lance in the shotgun. I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think there's going to be carries for Trey Sermon. I just think that I wonder what role it's going to be compared to what Elijah Mitchell's role is. I think Mitchell's going to be the main back. He's going to be getting the ball, in for the most carries, and then also catching the ball in the backfield. And then I think Jeff Wilson Jr. is going to be on target to be that third down back. JaMychal Hasty could struggle to make this roster. I mean, this is not an easy roster and to make. And I think that when it comes down to it, Trey Sermon is going to make the roster because he's a third-round pick. I think that's what it comes down to. Sermon will make the team this year, but next year is the real question, and he's going to have to show a lot of improvement this year if he's going to be able to make it next year. I think he will improve. I think that we're going to see vast improvement from a lot of the different 49ers that's pretty much redshirted last year, and that's exactly what you're hoping to do, draft and develop, and hopefully Trey Sermon develops into a player that can go out there and take some carries from Elijah Mitchell and produce at a high level when he's in there.
I would agree with you on that. That's definitely something. And number one, I'd love to see, but number two is still likely. I think the more likely situation is that we're going to continue to see development from this young man, from Trey Sermon. The question just is going to be how much development. Tom over on Facebook says, "Hey, I hate that we're at a point where they could have had 2 second-round picks for Jimmy, and now we don't know if we're going to get anything or be forced to release him." Also, whoever made that list of coaches for PFF was probably high on PCP. Well, shots to PFF. Tom thinks, well, first off, Tom is cool, Ant.
Yeah.
He's very cool. But second off, I think you guys are all smoking and doing the drugs, PFF. So that's what the normal folk in the world are believing. And Freddie McDre, thank you for becoming a channel member over here on YouTube.
Yeah, welcome, Freddie McDre. Appreciate you joining the crew of channel members. Well done.
It's always yum yums in our tum tums when people become channel members, as Eric Armstead has put up on the screen for us. Thank you, Eric. But look, Tom, I will agree with you on at least the first part. It is frustrating with the Jimmy G situation in terms of what you could have potentially had. The real question just is how close were they actually to getting that deal done for 2 seconds or even just a second round pick that early on in the process? Was a team willing to just make that move right away? Were the Niners wanting to hold out for more? I believe they were wanting to hold out for more. They wanted more. There was probably an offer on the table that they could have ran with and taken, but there was no way to know that Jimmy was going to have to go through surgery and all these other things were going to play out. There was also no way to know that the Deshaun Watson situation was going to unfold and he was going to become a viable trade option for teams. Although the more that we see things now, maybe that was the Cleveland Browns jumping on something they probably or maybe should not have at this point. We don't know. We're going to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen with the Deshaun Watson thing, but when it comes down to Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, it was just bad timing. I think they did have something on the table. I think they were trying to work out a deal. Kyle Shanahan said they were close. And when it comes down to it, they needed to see medical that showed that Jimmy Garoppolo was healthy, probably the trade partner. And when Jimmy Garoppolo, decided to have surgery, that threw everything into a loop. And now that you can't move on from Jimmy Garoppolo at the time you could, then a lot of players got moved. A lot of, veterans became available, and Matt Ryan became available, which that's because Atlanta was flirting around with Deshaun Watson. And I think that's part of the issue that ended up causing the 49ers to maybe not get the draft capital they could have gotten for Jimmy Garoppolo. And now it could be coming down to him being released. And I don't think any of us really wanted him to be released. We wanted to be able to move him, get the money, from his contract, but also get some draft capital back. And that's just not going to happen now.
No, it's going to do the opposite of happening. It's looking more and more each and every day. Like the reality is that if Jimmy is here come training camp, they will compete. They will probably let him go out and try and do something to show if he can be the guy. But I don't know how. Last year, Trey got some chances, but didn't really get an opportunity to compete. I would say this year, at this point, going into this training camp, the reality would be is that Jimmy is going to be the one who gets the short hand. He's going to get the not great hand, and he'd have to completely wow in order to take any opportunity or ability away from Trey Lance to be the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Paul is bringing it up in chat. Cleveland may need a quarterback for a whole year or more. Jimmy's available. And I've heard some conversations about that recently about, Jimmy, of course, being available, but Baker Mayfield not wanting to be in Cleveland. So if something happens with Deshaun Watson, there might not be the fallback of Baker Mayfield. If there's not a fallback plan of Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo could be that plan, at which time the 49ers may just get the leverage they need to go ahead and leverage Cleveland out of a couple of picks.
A couple of picks, and a whole host of other things as well. That would be a very interesting situation if he got dealt to Cleveland with the unfolding of that situation with Deshaun Watson, as well as the unfolding of the drama with Baker Mayfield there. 49ers fans, do you think the Niners have it bad? You could be Cleveland. You could be Cleveland right now. David Campbell, are you guys worried about the O-line at all? I'm not. I don't want to say. I feel worried is strong. It's a strong word, David. Questions. Curious. I think curious is the right way. I'm curious to see how this plays out. The Alex Mack retiring is definitely kind of a shock to the system and kind of gets you thinking like, oh gosh, maybe this isn't as good of a situation as we thought it was, and maybe it's not as strong as we thought it was. But I haven't seen Brendel. I don't know yet. I don't know what's going to happen with Jimmy or when. Could J.C. Treader be an option? He very well could be, and the knee situation makes him even more affordable for San Francisco, which means you don't have to overpay this guy a huge amount of money potentially to get him into San Francisco. So there are definitely options on the table. I feel very good about Aaron Banks. I feel very good about Daniel Brunskill. Can you feel anything but amazing and wonderful and glorious about Trent Williams? You really can't. And then everyone feels a different way about Mike McGlinchey. Everyone feels a different way. Health-wise, they have concerns, or even if he's healthy, they just can't stand the man. So, listen, at the end of the day, I'm a big Mike McGlinchey guy. I'm a huge Daniel Brunskill guy. The only real question mark for me that remains is that center spot and what they're going to do, and I'm willing to give it some time.
Yeah, I think there's some question marks still in the offensive line. Do I feel worried? No. Am I interested to see? I'm kind of in the same department you are. Let's see what these guys can do. Let's see what happens. When Brendel gets out there and straps it up. I think he's going to be able to operate this offense. He understands the offense inside and out. From the admission of some of not only the coaches but also the players as well. So I don't think it's going to be a mental issue for Brendel, which is going to give him an advantage over a lot of guys that are going to compete with him, especially. But then also, we do have questions about Aaron Banks, because even though there's a lot of nice things that have been said about him, the last thing I can remember seeing is him getting absolutely worked. And so until I see that vast improvement, I don't get to see him every single day in practice like Coach Forrester, and Kyle Shanahan see the video and the tapes on him. So I think that right now I'm going to take a watch and see approach, but I love all the encouraging things that they're saying about Banks. It makes me feel, comfortable that he's improved a lot, and I'm hoping that's going to transition and show on the field. But like Kyle Shanahan said in the state of the franchise yesterday, he said, these guys, we're all happy with them, but they got to go out there and prove it on the field. Nothing matters until you go out there and you get your butt kicked. That's basically what he said, and he's right. These guys have to go prove it on the field, and they have to prove it against, big time defensive linemen. And we'll see what happens when they get out there on the field. But until then, it's just projection. One
of the hardest things to get across to young men when I was coaching with the voice program at Ben Holt was just that. They would come to me preseason, usually right before season started. Coach, you're still riding this hard. You're still getting honest about this. You're getting honest about that. I feel like I can't do anything to make you happy. I showed up to every day in the offseason. I put in all the work. That's great. That's great. All of that is great. I'm so happy that you did all that. Extremely happy. None of it matters now. None of it matters, because it's all about what you grew, how you improved, and what you're going to do now and what you're going to put forward. All of that is just to get you in the door so that you can now show me that you deserve this chance, right? This opportunity, this moment to be the guy. That's one of the hardest things as an athlete is the process doesn't stop. And unless you're someone who is physically gifted in every single way and checks off all of those boxes, you're going to be a guy. If you're one of those guys who walks in the building and is already better than most of the people who walk in, then you're in a really good spot. But if you got guys behind you who are close but work really hard, they're going to keep pushing. They're going to keep grinding and getting closer and closer to where you're at or where that guy is that's not putting in that work. It's all about, transitioning, translating, taking what you're working on in your own time, taking what you're working on or working on in your free time, taking what you're working on in practices with your coaches at your position in preseason, OTAs, training camp, etc., and then making that stick once you get to season. Because if it doesn't stick, all of that work doesn't mean jack diddly squat. It means nothing. It's great that you did it, but it's got to translate. If it doesn't translate, it's useless.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It all matters when you get on the field. When you step on the field, you have to go execute, and that's what it's about. And it looks like Kyle Shanahan in this offense has a belief that when it comes down to it, Aaron Banks and Brendel are going to be able to go out there and execute. And if they do it, it doesn't matter what their name was before. It doesn't matter what everyone thought about them. All that matters is what they do on the field, and it could be the next Jim, right? There's been lots of players that have come along that no one even knew who they were. No one knew what kind of impact they were going to make on the team, and then they show up, and all of a sudden they become household names. I didn't know who DJ Jones was, when they brought him in. And then he became a big-time player, and he went out and got a big-time deal. So same with Laken Tomlinson. Sometimes you go out and you get players, and you expect them to develop, and when they do, you look like an absolute genius, and I think they're hoping these guys are going to step up in a big way this year.
They would like to look like geniuses also, and it's always good when you look like a genius.
I think so.
I agree with you. Robert, what up, TCC? How are you doing? Good, sir. Good to see you there. David Villa saying Ross Dwelly, tight end too. And I did see a little bit ago, I'm going to try and scroll back up to it. Freddie McDray asked, staying on offense, who will be tight end 2? David feeling Ross Dwelly. I know there's some people who are going to think Charlie Warner. And while I'm in that boat currently, I am hoping to goodness gracious, good God Almighty, that it's actually Tyler Kroft.
Well, after Kyle Shanahan's comments yesterday, he basically put it out there that there's no guarantees Ross Dwelly and Charlie Warner are going to make this team. He straight up said on there, there's competition in that room, and he goes, there's no guarantees that, and he named Charlie and Ross as being able to make the roster. So I think when it comes down to it, this tight end room is wide open, and Tyler Kroft could have just kicked the door open in a big way. He's one of those guys that can do both. He can block, he can catch the ball. The tight end room has definitely improved, and I wonder how much of that has to do with Jordan Matthews as well. How much has he improved? The fact that two guys might not make the roster means they're not just high on Croft, but high on somebody else as well. Could it be Matthews? Could it be Fumajili? Who is the other guy?
It has to be Matthews, right?
It could be.
There's no way it's Fumajili. And it's not a knock on Fumajili. It's just not. It's the fact that Matthews has been in the league for some time now, for so long, that they feel they've seen enough development at that position that it makes it worthwhile to have him eat up one of those rosters, even if it's the third tight end spot. His receiving prowess alone, if they feel he's good enough or not worse than Ross Dwelley in the blocking category, that it's a risk worth taking.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, the thing is these guys are very talented. You know what I mean? And we last year we went into the room and the question marks were basically one, right? Was it going to be Charlie Warner, who was struggling in OTAs, or was it going to be Michael Pruitt?
True.
Of course, Pruitt ends up getting the injury and never really performs in training camp, gets released.
God,
So
he looked so big in training camp.
He did. He looked fantastic. So it's kind of stinks that it didn't work out with Michael Pruitt, but the 49ers didn't rest on that. They went out and got a couple other guys, including having Jordan Matthews work the entire year, with the team, keeping him on the practice squad. I think this could be an interesting competition, and maybe one of the funnest competitions in the skilled player area. We know lines are going to be fun, but in the skilled player area, I don't think wide receivers like a lot of things to go on this year. Running back is kind of more defined. But tight end, I think it's more up in the air. It's George Kittle and then a lot of competition.
That's what I mean. A lot of people look at that because you have George Kittle. I feel a lot of people look at the 49ers tight end room and have always said, oh, it's strong because of George, or, you don't have as many questions. You don't need a lot of competition there because you have George and what George can do. But we've seen George go down. We've seen George not be able to stay healthy. We've seen George not be able to put together full 16, 17 game seasons. So yes, the tight end room matters. Yes, behind him is what's truly important. Because if there's a loss of George Kittle and you don't have someone that can help establish the run game and block the way you need to block, that's problems. If you don't have a guy who can go out and stretch the field vertically, that's problems. You don't have a guy who can go one-on-one on the outside with guys like Stephon Gilmore and win, that's a problem. That is a major problem. It's a huge gaping hole in the offense. So the fact they went out and got Tyler Kroft made me feel good. Kyle Shanahan saying Dwelley and Warner may not make the roster makes me feel even better. Not because I don't want Charlie Warner or Ross Dwelley on the roster, but because I want their roster spots at risk. I want them to earn it, because if they earn it, if you bring in new faces, guys who are a little bit more developed, who have had time to develop in the system, and they're the best options left at the end of the day, then I feel better about just going into it and knowing that, hey, these are our three tight ends. We don't need to think about it. I want other people not named George Kittle to have to work and think about thinking about every day, what do I got to do to make this roster?
Yeah, and speaking of the tight end position, that's one thing Kittle's been talking about is 2 bye weeks to stay healthy. Mm-hmm. And he's been talking about this. We've been saying this for a while.
And Marvin just asked him.
Yeah. What do you think about the 17 games? I agree with Kittle. Well, here comes what I've been thinking the entire time. With the NFL expanding to other places and outside the the United States, it's nice for them to have bye weeks to be able to fit in the travel plans. But also, here comes week 18. When the players go to negotiate and they say, hey, we want a second bye, the NFL is going to be like, okay, we want an 18th game. And I think they'll finally get that full 18 that they want. I think that's the top end for as many games as they can get. The expansion of the playoffs has happened and may happen a little bit more with no bye weeks. But I think it will be 18 games with 2 bye weeks, and the players starting to talk about it. They can push for it, but I think at that point the NFL is going to push back with wanting a week 8 or a 18th game.
And that's the thing that the players are going to have to weigh, right? They're going to have to weigh that. You want the additional bye week, that's fine. We're going to want an extra game out of this whole situation, right? We want 18. We'll push the regular season to 20 weeks, and then we got the expanded playoffs and all that fun jazz. And it's twofold, right? So your body's going to have to go through the rigors of another football game. Yes, you have an additional week of rest during the season that you normally wouldn't have, which is great. But you do have an extra game that you now have to play on top of an expanded playoff run and roster. So if you're a team who plays in the wild card, you're playing 2 additional regular season games plus the additional playoff game and going down the line all the way to the Super Bowl. That is more wear and tear on the body than ever before for players. But it also potentially means skyrocketing in terms of pay. Because more games means more revenue means more for the players, bigger potential matchups. The NFL being able to intentionally maybe leave that week 20 game, that last game of the season, and leave it for special occasions or special matchups and things of that nature where they pin teams against each other and try and give maybe, Super Bowl games or whatever. They can do a lot of different things with that that last game, that week 20 matchup. It provides avenues for storylines and creating bigger storylines that gets more eyes on the game.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's going to be a lot of avenues, but what it really does too is increase TV revenue.
That's true.
Increasing TV revenue means more money, like you said, for the players, but also, more money to do other things, expanding the game, probably expanding the rosters as well. But expanding the game is big because they're playing in other countries now. You're going to have a game in Germany. You're going to have a game in England. You're going to have a game in Mexico. And I think they want to continue to expand. And as they do, that means more money because TV revenue from overseas, they got the Prime Video contracts. Everything is going to be big money for the NFL. I think that the bye week is needed. Whether it's 17 or 18 games, they do need a second bye. I think that's really good for the players. And if they do go with an extended playoff again, there's been talk about them going 1 through 8. Everyone plays, no bye week. What I would suggest is they throw a bye week between week 20 and the first round of the playoffs and let everyone have a bye. Let them all come in fresh. I think that might be something to do.
They won't do that.
They might not because that would push the Super Bowl into the beginning of March.
They're not. There's no way they're doing that, dude. There's no way the NFL is going to go, yeah, let's make sure everyone is fresh. No, they're gonna keep that competitive advantage.
They might
for teams that finish at the top, and I think the reason too as well is they don't want to potentially give 2 bye weeks to the 1 seed, like two whole weeks off before they play. That's a lot of rust. That's a lot of time off between games this late in the season. Now, granted, some people will say, well, rush, schmuss, these guys are professionals. I agree, but it's one thing when you're planning, preparing for a team that you're playing a week. When you have 2 weeks where you're practicing and you have no idea what you're preparing for, it's just cleaning things up. You can get a little lackadaisical. You can get a little bit off your game because you don't necessarily have that edge. That edge isn't there because you don't know who it is you're lining up across from, what they're doing. You lose a little bit.
Yeah, you do. And historically, though, the teams with bye weeks play better in the playoffs and have a better chance of going to the Super Bowl. That rest is huge in the NFL. So we'll see what happens. And Dana and Ross have a question here. Is the Rams really going to get Robert Quinn?
I haven't heard anything about this. Is this rumors swirling?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. They need help at edge rush. I haven't heard the swirls from this, so I don't know exactly where that came from. But Robert Quinn is a player that they're very familiar with. He would fit in nice. They got to replace Von Miller. So we'll see what happens if they go ahead and are able to get Robert Quinn.
True. It's very, very true. The Bears still planning to sit down and meet with him. It looks like in July. That's what the Bears coach said. They're planning to sit down and meet with him in July and hoping to get him back. I'm seeing For the Win here reporting 5 contenders who could or should trade for him. And it looks like per them, and the Ravens are one of them because of the current cap situation that they have, where they have $5.5 million in cap space is one. The other one is
the Las Vegas Raiders.
The Raiders, with a picture of Chandler Jones because he's now there. The Kansas City Chiefs, that's a glorious picture there for that team. The Cincinnati Bengals are another one, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they have those 5 teams down. This place and this gentleman here who wrote this article for the Win is claiming those are the top 5 landing spots, and he's basing that off of cap space. You would think the Rams would have a really hard time bringing a guy like Robert Quinn and being able to find a way to pay him, considering all the other guys they currently have under contract, all the big money that they have. Then again, the salary cap does not exist for the Los Angeles Rams, so who knows?
Yeah, I wouldn't count them out. They need edge rush help. That's something that would be big for them. Robert Quinn did he's a very good player. He played very nice. Opposite of Khalil Mack last year. He's somebody we had to worry about. I know we watched him on film in the All-22 against the 49ers, and he did a really good job. But, I mean, when it comes down to it, Robert Quinn's not somebody that I'm going to freak out about the Rams getting. He's not the huge difference maker that somebody else would be, but he is a difference maker that would improve their defense and make it a little bit more difficult on the Niners.
That's very, very true. And very, very true there. Let's see here. Who else? Oh, Caleb talking about the World Cup being at Levi's in 2026. He can't wait not to watch it. There are going to be a lot of people, though, that are very excited about that. And Levi Stadium hosting more things. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing for the 49ers. It's not a bad thing for that stadium because it helps bring up the prestige a little bit. So that's always exciting.
Yeah, and Al Guido is talking about the 49ers expanding Levi Stadium, Levi Stadium 2.0, going ahead and working on the facility. I think it's something that's needed for that area. That area is going to keep getting better, which makes the experience for the fan better. So I'm not going to watch the World Cup probably. I'm just not really into soccer or football. But yeah, it's good for Levi Stadium, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are very happy about that.
Well, it's not going to be bad for that area either in Santa Clara. It's not going to be bad. It's going to pull a lot of people in. There are people who will travel from literally all over the world and would love to go to a theme park, which is right next door. So check that out also. Freddie McDre, what about starting the season earlier and keeping Super Bowl at the regular time? You could do that, but again, players are going to have to agree to that, and you're asking them to take on another game plus start their season earlier. I don't know.
Well, they will cut the preseason down to 2 games.
It's true.
That will happen. I mean, it's inevitable for the preseason to go down to 2 games, which is interesting because how are you going to evaluate these players that make your 53-man roster? I mean, I know practice is a big one, and probably joint practices could be the most important.
I wonder if the joint practice session in terms of how it's scripted and how it goes now will potentially shift to make it almost like a first preseason type game sort of scenario, where maybe they do those joint practices potentially in a stadium, maybe the practice facilities first couple days, but one of them is in a stadium where they line up and actually try and simulate kind of a game, but maybe a little bit more controlled.
It could be. They would have to be, right? The advancement of the joint practices, maybe even 2 joint practices instead of one set.
It's cutting it down at the NFL level because of how big the rosters are. Trying to cut down to a 53-man roster with 2 preseason games would be like trying to determine, like if you had a high school basketball program or a high school football program, and let's say you got in the football side of things, let's say you got between all 3 levels, like close to 200 kids, and you're supposed to cut rosters down within a week, 4 days, 5 days? Like, have fun trying to figure that out. Have fun trying to cut those rosters down and make that team the best version of that team, and knowing what you're going to do with all of these players. Yeah, you have practices, you have all of that, you have your training camp stuff where you're putting stuff in, you're installing, you're going against each other. That's fine. But going against your teammates, going against your own team is completely different than suiting up against someone who legitimately cannot stand you.
Yeah, I think that, it would make it more difficult, but I do think the 49ers and NFL teams have a pretty good idea already of who, like, the starters are, for instance. True. It's more the back end guys, right? So you have some guys that are fringe, and then you have guys that are competing for a practice squad spot. But I do like the fact that those guys get to prove it on the field. There's always somebody that comes out of nowhere that surprises everyone, whether that's in training camp or then in the preseason. So I would miss that part of the game, but I think it's inevitable. You make preseason go smaller so you can have more regular season games, because when it comes down to it, regular season games produce more money than preseason games.
Very, very true, Ant. Very, very true. Freddie McDre, would Debo pull a hill and talk smack about Trey or Jimmy if he were to leave at the end of the year? I don't know. Did you see any of that? Tyreek Hill talking about Tua being a better ball thrower, throws a better ball than Patrick Mahomes. All this stuff that Tua was saying, all the stuff that Tyreek Hill was saying about Tua Tagovailoa. Did you see any of this?
Is it a satire?
No, he's dead serious, bro. So either Tyreek Hill is serious, and we all have missed on Tua Tagovailoa, or there may be some brain damage and he's the next AB, maybe? Is that
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say I hope he's just trying to build up the young quarterback. Maybe he's just trying to build him up because Tua Tagovailoa still struggles when he's rolling to the right to throw the ball. So I don't see it, but hey.
I don't understand why he had to say he threw a better ball than Patrick Mahomes. Like, you don't need to say that because Patrick Mahomes throws a really good football, and we haven't seen anything from Tua that makes you go.
Patrick texted him and was like,
hey, bro, what?
Yeah.
Hey, yo, bro, what?
Yeah. No,
it was a little weird. But hey, Tyreek Hill doing his thing out there in Miami, and Miami has him vibing and feeling a certain type of way. And poor Patrick Mahomes is catching the brunt of it. John said here, San Francisco, heard anything about D Ford, who will take over from the edge opposite of Bosa? It's most likely going to be Samson Ebukam on your base downs. I think right now the front runner, though, to be the closer would be Charles Omenihu.
I'm going to say that the closer is going to be Kamoko Toure.
Ooh, I like it.
So I think Kamoko Toure is going to be the guy that closes it down. I think he's going to be the speed rusher off the edge. I'm looking to see what his development would be, but right now there's no word on D Ford. Last week, Kyle Shanahan said that D Ford was going to be coming into the facility to get a physical, but he didn't expect him to be with the team this season. But he presumably came in for the physical. We've heard nothing, so I wonder what that means for D Ford. Maybe we'll get an answer, this weekend or possibly next week. We'll see. But right now, there's just nothing about D Ford. But the 49ers do have a bunch of options to play opposite Nick Bosa. Ebukam will start with that closer role. There could be a few different guys that use that place.
Absolutely. And Freddie says Mahomes responded already and took the high road. Well, good on Patrick. Good on Patrick. No reason to burn bridges if you don't have to.
Yeah.
Don't burn bridges if you don't need to. You never know when that bridge may come in handy later on down the road. So good on Patrick Mahomes. Lou says the pundits apparently are talking at the running back Matthews. Thoughts?
Which one's Matthews?
That's exactly my thought process and my point. They also talked up Trent Taylor.
Yeah.
They talked up Trent Taylor. They talked up Trent Taylor in Cincinnati last year as well. He was the best wide receiver in camp. That happened numerous times in San Francisco. They talked about Trent Taylor being the best wide receiver in camp. Pundits talk up guys all the time. There are some guys you watch them, and as pundits, whatever, you're trying to find something different to talk about, and so you start liking something that a guy does out there, and so you romanticize it a little bit. And sometimes you're right. I mean, I've heard guys talk players up, and then those players go on to actually do big things in the season. And sometimes you romanticize it to a point where it was never actually going to translate, and you were just seeing something that wasn't there.
Yeah, maybe. I just don't know who Matthews is. Like, is there a guy on the roster that's named? Maybe Lou could fill us in on who Matthews is.
First name, please.
Yeah, and maybe it was like a typo or something. I don't know who that is for sure.
Not sure. Not sure either. Am I the only one excited that Greg Papa got extended? Love hearing that. San Francisco.
Who said that?
That was San Francisco.
Oh, man. Come on, John. Come on. I can't go there with you. I can't stand that.
Listen, I don't. There's a reason I don't listen to the 49ers on radio, even if I have the opportunity. If I'm driving, I won't listen to the 49ers on radio.
I would.
I will literally put it on my phone and get arrested for using my phone while driving. I'll take the fine.
I would definitely rather watch, a different telecast. I'm not a huge fan of Greg Papa's touchdown call, especially.
Why? Because it's basically his Raiders call, just with.
Well, and yeah, I mean, hey, maybe there's a lot of people that like it, and that's okay. Different strokes for different folks.
Oh
but I'm just not a fan. But I am a huge fan of Tim Ryan.
Yes,
I do like Tim Ryan. So
big fan of Tim Ryan.
Yeah. And then Lou said it was a brain fart. He meant Mason.
Oh, there we go. Okay, Mason. I mean, still, it's not.
I mean, there's a lot
not moving the needle for me.
There's a lot of good conversation that's coming out of this. I mean, we got a deep running back room. The problem is, what are your chances of beating out the five guys ahead of him? I mean, first off, Elijah Mitchell already proved to what he was.
Yep.
They're very fond of Jeff Wilson. Over the years, he's done a lot for this football team. Trey Sermon was a third-round pick, and TDP was a third-round pick.
It's
going to be hard.
Unless you're trading Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon's not going anywhere. TDP's not going anywhere. Barring a Jeff Wilson injury, that is literally the only way he's cracking this roster, because the Niners aren't keeping 6 running backs.
No, and it could be JaMychal Hasty in that way. So
that's true. I think the best case scenario for that guy is the practice squad for Mason, and there's nothing wrong with that because he's an undrafted gentleman. There's nothing wrong with him being on a practice squad, especially for a year. The Niners have shown they will bring guys in, they will let them mold, they will redshirt them, develop them. Kyle Shanahan will sit there and mold them on the practice squad with the rest of the coaching staff. And then next season will be the year that he has a chance to come in and shock the world. Yeah,
I think he would be a nice candidate for the practice squad.
Agreed.
I think you get him on the practice squad, you let him develop. He's a big-bodied individual who can catch the ball in the backfield. I mean, he's a really good athlete with some skills. He's just coming into a team that's absolutely loaded at that position. And that's a good problem to have. When you have too many players, now you can put people on the practice squad so we don't run into the same issues the 49ers had last year where they're signing people off the street and expecting them to come in and learn the offense in 1 week because of injuries.
He just likes the ending, Ant.
Yeah.
He just likes the ending. So there you go. Does that make it slightly better?
The ending of what?
Of Papa's call. He just likes the ending. It's everything else is mad. The ending is the part he likes.
The
Cisco.
Well, I mean, since your name is Sac Francisco,
yeah,
I'll allow it. But just know that that's one of the worst parts of the entire call. Actually,
yikes. Big yikes.
Oh, that's actually my least favorite.
John, I'm sorry.
If you watched the state of the franchise, he did it like 5 times. I was over it after the first one. Okay, do people actually like this call? I don't know. I apparently some do, and that's okay.
Well, to each their own, obviously. But.
Give me Ted Robinson. Give me Lon Simmons. Give me Starkey. That's who I want. Those are the ones I want calling on the radio.
That's true.
But Greg Papa's who we got. So here we go, Greg Papa.
It is what it is. Paul here going, I've noticed the content creators, reporters, pundits, they get fixated on the person they like and they almost stick with them to a fault. That is 100% something that happens. Big Papa, you're not wrong there. That is something that happens a lot. You get invested. You get invested in these players. You get invested in these guys. You get invested with a story. You get to know somebody. You see their work ethic. You see them coming in and out of the building every day. You watch the way they carry themselves. And sometimes it's hard to separate. It's hard to separate the reality of where they're at in their development, or maybe where they're the reality of where they sit potentially on the roster and how they're competing with the person themselves and what you like about them. That becomes very difficult.
Yeah, and we got another question from Dana and Rose. It says, my buddy was telling me that it's a rumor out there. They can't find anything official, but it's about the preseason in 2025 being gone and them adding 2 expansion teams. Alex, Do you think that's going to happen?
You can't get rid of the preseason. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't think you can get rid of the preseason in entirety, but take it down to 2, I think is probable.
2 is the most realistic thing.
And the 2 expansion teams could happen. They would love to get a team in Mexico. They would absolutely love that. They would love to have a team in Europe too. But boy, would that make things interesting for travel. I guess you would have to have a second bye week, so every team that traveled there could have a bye week afterwards.
Yeah, you got to have the bye week afterwards because those teams are going to have to go into a conference.
Yeah.
They have to go into a conference. If you're going to add 2 expansion teams in, you got to come into a conference. They're going to have to reconfigure divisions in terms of what they're going to be and where they're going to be sitting and what they're going to be doing. I think ideally what they would love is, and obviously a team in Europe, and then a team in Mexico. I think that's what they would be shooting for and aiming for. One team could be in the NFC, one team could be in the AFC, and then you have some reconfiguring of divisions to happen and going on there.
Real simple. Put Mexico in the NFC West and put the Europe team in the AFC East and call it good.
I mean, you could do that, Ant. You really could do that. We're gonna see. We'll see what happens on that. We'll see what happens. Let's see here. After we win the Super Bowl this year, do you think we can get a back-to-back championship? Asked Bay Mac. Why not?
Yeah, if you win it once, you have an opportunity to win it again. But you got to win it once. I mean, I think that's the biggest obstacle right now is making sure that when you get to that game, and getting to that game is difficult enough, but when you get there, you absolutely finish. And I think that 49ers, are hoping they're going to do that. I like the things that have been said about Trey Lance because I think he's going to be a big part of that. But yeah, I mean, if they get 1, they have a good chance to get 2.
Caleb, how could anyone forget the with the interception he's running? Greg Papa with the Woody with so bad. It was so cringe. Yeah. I literally muted the television.
And San Francisco's not digging the Ayuk is on fire either.
No, that one was bad. Listen, I know people love the Trey area stuff.
Yeah.
But the first time Papa did it, I was done with it. I was literally done with it. It's like a meme that, whenever someone makes a meme about somebody and the person finally sees the meme and they're pissed off about it at first, especially a celebrity, but then they're like, you know what, I'm just gonna steer into this, and then they start reposting the meme or start actually doing the meme. It's like the meme's dead. It's dead now. The minute Papa said Trey area on television after a big touchdown, it was dead for me.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Papa, I think part of it was, I get he was trying to do his own call. That's why he went to San Francisco and not like the other ones, touchdown 49ers. Yeah. But I think there's something iconic about it. Just Greg Papa's voice saying touchdown 49ers would have been fine.
It would have been, I think it would have been nice,
I think he built it up so much, but whatever. He's going to be the guy through 2028.
Sure.
So we'll see how it goes.
That's very, very true, Ant. Very, very true. Is Deshaun the worst player to ever be in the league, or is there a player with worse allegations? Well,
there have been people with murder allegations and actually murdered people. So
Yeah, I mean,
would say that's worse.
Aaron Hernandez literally was like a mob boss. Was literally having people killed and killing people himself, allegedly. I can't. He was never found guilty technically in the court of law. He died first, so allegedly. So look, I think there are people who've done some bad things in the league. Some of them intentional, some of them probably wrong place, wrong time. Stuff happens. Like life happens in a shocking turn of events, and the human race in and of itself. Humans aren't perfect. So you're gonna have people who do things they shouldn't do, and some people who take advantage of the situation. The Deshaun Watson situation still is playing out, so it's still unfolding. Yeah, we're just gonna have to wait to see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
Thomas Sewell is a head coach in Germany. Oh my Lord.
Cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Does it matter if he's undrafted? I'm not a Sermon or Hasty fan, regardless of draft position. I'd like to see him get a chance to display Sermon. Well, it doesn't seem like they're very high on Sermon. So I don't think this coaching staff is going to be sitting there not giving anyone a chance to show in this running back room that they can or can't get the job done. I don't really believe Kyle Shanahan has favorites in terms of, they draft guys in certain positions because he really loves them and wants them to succeed and have success. He's taking guys in the running back room that have certain traits that can fulfill a certain need. That's why they took Elijah Mitchell where they took him. And look, Elijah Mitchell wasn't getting opportunities to run with the first team in training camp, but when the bell tolled and the numbers were called, Elijah Mitchell was the first one to get the call to go be RB1 for the 49ers.
Yeah, I don't think the 49ers, coaching staff cares about where you were drafted.
Agreed.
Like, they're going in there, they're just looking for the best players. But when the decision needs to be made, if there's two guys that are equal, they will absolutely pick the player that they invested draft capital into. So it does matter in that regard. Because if it's financial reasons and it's also the capital that you spent, the team wants to make sure they invest in their own guys. So I think, of course, the players want everyone to go ahead and make the team and do the best that they possibly can. But at some point, if it comes down to it and they are equal, they will pick the guy with more draft capital and invest in them because financially it makes more sense for the team.
That is very accurate. Oh, man. Very, very accurate. Big Papa, speaking of players with problems, is Alvin Kamara going to be suspended? Possibly.
Yeah, when it comes to the NFL, you just don't know what they're going to do with their suspensions.
No.
I mean, there's no way to know if he's suspended for 2 games or 6 games or for the whole season. You just don't know.
Very true. It's inconsistent at best, and questionable at worst. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that situation there with Alvin Kamara. I would be shocked if he didn't get like a game at the very minimum. Imagine he's going to get some time because he did put himself in a situation that not only was a bad spot for him, but a black eye for the league and a black eye for the Saints as well, and a distraction that they don't want to be dealing with. So it's going to cost him something. The question is just how much. It's just how much. Baymac, why is Rob Shoe beefing with Grant? I didn't realize that was a thing.
I didn't even know they were beefing. To be honest with you, I haven't consumed any of their content. Nope. So I didn't know there was a beef. But hey, I don't know.
Is it a delicious like medium rare beef? Is it seasoned properly, Baymac? I'd like to know. I do enjoy a good beef.
Yeah, is it an East Coast West Coast kind of thing?
Is it an East Coast West Coast beef? Is it a something else type of beef? I don't know. Loses the bottle of wine to his dad. I didn't realize they.
Wow, they got some stuff going on. I'm missing out on. Apparently,
dog.
Yeah.
Hot dog. Papa has made his touchdown calls less soccer-like. Yeah, that's true. He has, Gary. And Gary, I hope you're doing well, man.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well.
How's it going, Gary?
Marvin saying the more he reads about Watson, the less he likes him. A lot of people do feel that way. A lot of people do. Look, everything that's going on in the league with a lot of these different players, I'm surprised that they're not anyone in chat, but I have seen a lot of people talking about it really does feel like a lot of these players are getting in more and more trouble. For as long as I can remember, there are always guys in the NFL that do something they shouldn't do and get in trouble. The good thing has always been it's not a majority of the league. It's not 90% of the league. It's a handful of players on a handful of teams. It almost feels like at times it's culture issues within certain teams where you see big problems. Like the Bengals for a while had a lot of guys who were getting, petty arrests, drunk driving, little dumb stuff here and there. The Raiders for a stretch here, especially under Gruden, they had that stretch of 3 top 3 round picks for them over the course of 3 or 4 years that were doing things they shouldn't, got in trouble, and ended up not in the NFL or not on the team. It seems like it's more of a culture thing and getting guys in who maybe are very talented guys, but maybe questionable character when they come into the league in terms of just maturity and things of that nature, and just not setting that foundation with them and helping them grow as people.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, and Marvin's putting some of the stats about NFL players, I think, sometimes that's why some of these teams are doing more due diligence than ever, into people's character and what they are like off the field. But situations come up, people make mistakes. And I think sometimes because these guys have such a spotlight on them, some of the mistakes are amplified. And then there's some that completely warrant the response that they get, where they do, terrible things. So I think in general, this is kind of something that happens in society as well. It's just, normally you don't have TV cameras pointed towards every single thing that happens, and it's not highlighted like that. So there are things that happen in the NFL that's not great, and the NFL is trying to do their best to keep it cleaned up to the best of their abilities. But I mean, most of these players are out there. They're hardworking individuals that are just trying to play a game they love and provide for their family. So I think when it comes down to it, we got to look at all the good, as long as there are a few bad apples, but it shouldn't spoil it for everyone.
Sure. At the end of the day, I really do believe deep down that most of the players in the NFL are good people. I believe that with most people. Most people are good people. Circumstance and situation, a lot of the times, forces or puts people in positions where they have to make choices and make decisions, and that can be difficult. It can be difficult to consistently and continually make the right decision, no matter how good your moral grounding is, because some of these situations that a lot of people are in, some of it's not even due to their circumstance, or just, them doing something. It's circumstance they were born in, the environment that they're in growing up. I saw that he talked about 50% of players are convicted criminals somewhere in their past. Well, that's the key, somewhere in their past. Where they grew up, the home environment they were raised in, the people that were around them. Some of that is choice and some of that isn't. Some of that is just where you're at in life at that point in time. And so you make mistakes, you learn, you try and improve and better yourself, and you try and put yourself in a better position in the future. So that way your kids, your kids' kids, your friends, everyone else who's in that situation can get out of it and hopefully make better lives and better decisions for themselves in the future.
Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get better, and I think a lot of these players are using this as an avenue to get better. We just seen a Colts player retire from the NFL. And the reason I bring it up is because he's only in his third year and he's retiring from the NFL, to go do something else. And whatever they want to do, that's their own decision. They can do whatever they want. But I bring it up because now there's an actual landing spot for Jaquiski Tartt. Now with this retirement, could Jaquiski Tartt be on the move? We've seen the Steelers, they went ahead and signed Minkah Fitzpatrick to the largest deal for a safety in the NFL. That was a little bit surprising. So could Tartt actually land with the Colts now, and maybe all the conversation about Tartt to the 49ers would be over?
Possibly could be the case. And that's solid. I didn't think about that. That is definitely a possibility and a reality. He could end up over there as well. Agreed. Papa saying, listen to Chapman all the time. Never heard of him backstabbing Grant. I saw a little bit of that talk going on with John and Grant. I think what he's referring to there, Big Papa, is whatever happened with the Vegas stuff, because Grant and him were beefing there for a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just, one of those things where it didn't work out. They tried to work out something, a working relationship, and it didn't work out. But that's for them to discuss. That's for them to talk about if they want to. Both of them do content at their, the way that they want to handle it. John Chapman does a good job. He's putting out a lot of content right now. And I think, he does his thing. And people really enjoy listening to Grant as well. And if you want to consume, either content, you can. And I think that's one of the good things about 49ers land. There's a lot of different ways to approach content.
True.
There's super fans. There's people that are media members, and there's people that look at it from a coaching perspective. And I think all areas are fine. And those two are definitely at different ends of the spectrum.
That's very true, Ant, in terms of how they discuss the game and how they go about covering this team. But that is every channel. This channel is slightly different than others. And Chapman's is different than Grant's. Grant's is different than probably all of them at this point. And then you have a lot of people who have taken a similar route to Grant, but also do it slightly different and twist it in their own way to make it their own thing. That's the nice thing about content creation, Ant. You get to create it how you'd like in your image, as it be.
Yeah, speaking of that, did you see Armstead retweeted Jack Hammer? Jack Hammer said basically that Armstead isn't as good without Bosa. and he went on there. He made like a funny tweet about it. It was pretty interesting to see Eric Armstead retweeting it and then kind of make it his own spin on it. I always think it's funny when the players kind of go at media members a little bit. It was funny because in the comments somebody said Bosa too is control, or because Armstead said Bosa controls his mind sometimes during games. He's just kind of joking. And then somebody said, yeah, Bosa controls me as well. I had something to eat for dinner or whatever. It was like pretty funny stuff.
I love it. I do love it. Babe Mac, he wants to know whose wife is hotter between John and Grant. I know John's chap apparently simps very hard for his wife all the time. I do hear him talking about it a lot. I've seen a couple episodes where his chat is doing that. Is Grant married?
I don't know anything about their personal lives, to be honest.
I don't know nothing about Grant.
I know that that Chapman's wife has done like the intro for him for a long time. I would hear the voice, and then when it was revealed that it was his wife, and then I seen they just celebrated their 16th wedding anniversary. So congratulations to them. Yeah. But yeah, I'm probably not going to comment on other people's wives.
It's probably smart. I'm just bringing up the fact that I know it happens in his chat a lot. I know his fans. I remember you talking to us about this during one of the things we did with him. But no, I don't even know. I don't know anything about Grant other than his last name is Cone and his dad is Lowell.
I honestly don't know much about his personal life at all.
And the show is the Cone Zone.
Yeah, he does do that.
And he has the Cone phone.
It's smart.
It rhymes.
It works.
It does.
It's working.
It does work. Outside of that, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Sorry, chat. Sorry, GCC. No clue. No clue what's going on with any of that. None at all. Marvin says, I think the Niners will be awesome this year, and they will be tough and will win at least 11 or 12 games. So he's going 11 or 12, Ant.
I like that. 11 or 12, I think, is realistic. I think as far as picks, Alex, I don't know if you ever even went through your picks or not. I did. I did picks, and then actually for everyone that tomorrow Slightly Offsides is going to come out. You should check out Slightly Offsides if you're a patron or channel member. I'm going to post that up tomorrow. And we go through the schedule, and Horst makes his picks on how many games the 49ers are going to win. It's an interesting conversation, and I think people will enjoy it.
I would agree with you on that, and I think they definitely would enjoy that. Look, if you haven't been catching any of Slightly Offsides, you need to, because it is a lot of fun. It is a blast, and if you've been missing hit or miss, well, then you've been missing and not hitting, and you need to go over as well, become a channel member here on YouTube, or the best way is to go over to Patreon and support us there, because you'll get hit or misses, and you can, it's different. It's football related, and it's 49ers related, but it's not just all football. It's songs, it's music, it's, talking about and laughing at the good and the bad out there in terms of people making 49ers music-related content.
Yeah, exactly. It's another spin on, 49ers content. And so go check it out and see what you think. And I think that everyone would enjoy it. And if you like Horst or you like music, those are two different shows. Solid. But both are fun. Both are fun to do.
Wait. Horst is he's a musical connoisseur. He's a savant. You listen to his playlist? It's glorious.
No, it's not.
It is. It is great to hear, of course. Again, David is a fan of the dry sense of humor, Ant.
Yeah, he definitely has a dry sense of humor. And so there are moments that it comes through in a big way. And some of the episodes go a little bit more off the rails. And I think either one of us would even like. But that's what happens when you put us together in the same room. Sometimes it's magic and sometimes it's not. But both are fun, and that's why we go offsides.
I'll just say it's magic. I enjoy Horst going offsides. It's one of my favorite things in life. In all of life.
Yeah.
All of life. All right. If you have more questions, now is the time, Chad. Populate them. Let us know what you want to hear about. If you want to discuss anything. I know it's 6 right now. Some of you are itching to go watch basketball or itching to go do something else, or maybe start it. I don't know. But it's Thursday Q&A. Any other questions you have, drop them right now. And if you have not already, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, the notification bell as well. Share the video with the faithful. That way they don't miss more Q&As, because you have questions. We have answers, maybe, hopefully, most of the time. And we enjoy having these conversations with you.
Yeah, because after we're done answering questions, I'm going to meet up with the horse because we got to go get fitted for our tux.
That's true.
For Alex's wedding.
Woo!
Yeah.
Married.
Wow.
I know.
Took the plunge.
I really did.
Signed the contract.
I actually literally did. Literally signed.
There you go.
Literally signed for lots of money. Lots of money. Oh my gosh. Goodness gracious almighty. But look, this has been an exciting week. It's going to be continue to be an exciting week. We have videos coming out for you tomorrow. We got a video coming out for you Saturday, as well as next Tuesday as well. A live on Monday you're not going to want to miss. So lots of great content coming up. Lots of great content over on Patreon and for channel members exclusively here on YouTube. So if you're excited about content, if you want extra content, you want more of the 49ers Cutback, make sure you join here on YouTube over on Patreon because you're going to get more.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be more. And I'm looking forward to some of the shows that we have coming out over the weekend. We're going to get into the defensive X factors again tomorrow. So make sure you check that out. And then we're going to do the 49ers offense versus the NFC West and how they match up against the 4 NFC West teams on Saturday. And then Monday, when we go live, we're going to be talking about which 49ers rookie is going to make the biggest impact in 2022.
That's going to be a lot of fun. You're not going to want to miss that. I appreciate the congratulations in there. It's more about Megan. Megan is the one to congratulate. She has to put up with me. She's got to do. You all deal with me just in these little time frames here on YouTube on a screen. She's got to deal with me like in real life in person. That's a lot. That's a lot. She's the one doing all the work.
She's the real MVP.
She really is. I need to start crying and pointing. I need a trophy to hold to give to her. Like Katie. I need the whole meme is definitely what it is.
Yeah,
100%. 100%. All right, chat. It doesn't look like you have any more questions. Look, we're going to see what happens. We got tons of great videos, defensive act factors like you brought up and talked about, and lots of fun things coming your way. Lots more, hopefully, good, positive 49ers news. I would love to know more about D Ford. I would love to know more about Jimmy. Hopefully, we start to get answers to questions. But if we don't, then you know what? Patience. We talk a little bit more about this roster. We talk about, hopefully here in the future, coming soon, some training camp battles coming down the road and what to expect. So don't miss out on any of it. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell.
Yeah, make sure you do that. It's going to be a fun weekend, but there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming up. You don't want to miss it, and including at some point, Jimmy Garoppolo is good. There's a decision that's going to be made. We'll be right here to cover that for you. As Paul says in chat, 43 days until training camp is here, and training camp's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited about all of it. And maybe we'll get some D Ford information over the weekend. Maybe it'll be a fun weekend. But everyone, enjoy your Father's Day weekend as well. And we'll see you right back here on Monday for a nice live stream. But don't miss all the content that comes in the meantime.
Absolutely. And shout out to Michael Humphrey, the latest subscriber on the channel. We really appreciate it. TCC. We'll catch you on the next one. And until that time, stay safe.
Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.